Now, this is a Friday morning, and for reasons best known to myself and Pat, we're going to keep this shorter than usual, so concentrate. This will be a short podcast, but it will be a perfectly formed one. Right, Pat? All
Absolutely.
Regular in every feature. Okay.
Short, but perfectly formed.
We'll probably do one or two items, but oh my God, what we lack in quantity, we will make up for in quality. Right, the first one. Skip the bloody thing about the weather today, Pat. I don't care whether it's raining or not in Donegal. Okay. Don't care. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. I'm interested in two news stories over the last week or so. One is the plans which Eamon Ryan, the Green leader in the South, has for an age of rail, which he talks about a whole network right across Ireland, and he's talking up to 2050. And this would include, among other things, it would involve major cities would have at least an hourly connection, maybe more. He says he is including Tyrone, Derry, and Donegal. So effectively, it's almost certainly an all-Ireland rail system. But the question, I have that other story, this one about Drew Harris. Drew Harris is under, as we know, it was, for some people like ourselves, quite a controversial appointment. But I think it would have been sold on the grounds that here's, a man who served with the RUC and the PSNI, and look at the smooth way he moves into the Garda, and sort of an embryonic stage for an all-Ireland policing system. So talk about the two items, and then maybe the overall view as to whether or not this kind of evolution of all-Ireland makes sense. So first of all, Pat, this thing about the rail links, what do you think? Would you think that's a really important thing?
Jude, but the problem is that I have to start with a negative. The Taoiseach Leo Varadkar said Eamon Ryan's plan when he heard the costing, Jude, it's something like 38 billion. 38, no, that's a lot. He says it makes a great case for building more roads. That was his response. It's sort of sarcastic, But here's the thing, right, Jude? There's quite a lot going on. And you used the term evolution, and I think that's if you have an all-Ireland rail network, and by the way, the North will be expected to cough up about 9 billion out of the 38 billion. So
this is we're up to the 50-year mark now, 2050.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as I remember, the counties that do not have rail are all in Ulster, and I think they're Donegal, Cavan, Fermanagh, and possibly Monaghan. Right. So the place to get the most boost for an all-Ireland rail would be the Northwest, particularly, but the Northern Ireland in general. Right. That's a first. Right. You work on. There are now things going on in the Iron waterways. There's Tourism Ireland's been basically an all-Ireland organisation. A rail network would be an all-Ireland organisation. The Dublin government has indicated big time that it's going to fund McGee University in Derry. There's a bit of cross-border stuff going on in health between Letterkenny and Derry, Altnagelvin and Letterkenny University Hospital. What else am I missing? There's something else.
The children's heart conditions from the north go down to Dublin.
They go to Dublin. Dublin is also funding the nurses, the trainee nurses.
That's right.
So, that Jude, and by the way, I noticed something totally that I keep mentioning this, but it's Jude, the tragic deaths of the two wee girls in Monaghan and Clonus last week.
Oh God!
20 years ago, it would have been the 10th item on a news bulletin and on BBC Northern Ireland. It led something across the border, led the news bulletin 2 or 3 nights earlier this week, which to me denotes a total change in tone and content and all the rest of it. So Jude, there's a lot of things happening that it's almost like an evolutionary thing. So Jude, and Drew Harris, there is, I think that the people who appointed them saying, here's a message to the people in the north. This is the guy who was a senior, very, very senior in the RUC, and he's now our chief. So Jude, all that's suggesting that there's more and more meshing of the organizations, the structures, the finance, and all the rest of it. And is it an all-Ireland by evolution? You could argue it's a hell of a start.
So you like the look of both events, the Drew Harris appointment and this notion of an
I
All-Ireland
didn't necessarily agree with
railway
the Drew
system.
Harris. I think he had a lot of questions to answer about what went on here and during the Troubles, but that's another matter. But to answer the question, do you think evolution or revolution? Do you
Well, I
think there
don't
should
think
be
we
a
have to
border
choose
poll, or do
between
you
the
agree with
two.
this?
I don't think we have to choose between the two, because this, to some extent, this kind of work is giving the answer back to those who say, no, we couldn't have 50% plus one. This is moving things in a way where people, you hope, who are on the borders, alliance or soft unionists, will say, well, this makes sense. You know, we have an All-Ireland network system of rail. We've got maybe an All-Ireland police service and so on. So yes, those are good. I just worry about, there's two things. One, not all the politicians are in favour of an All-Ireland, or even the network that Eamon, whatever his name is, the idea that you could have that network. Leo Varadkar was out of the traps, as you say, and said, oh, no, that's a good case for, keeping the roads thing going. So there's dissension there. There's also a lot of dissension with regard to Drew Harris. I mean, the Garda force are now doing a referendum that they're dissatisfied with him. And 11,000 members are going to vote on it because he's going to change the hours and the shifts that they're having. So it's not all sunshine and roses. Both those initiatives are encountering turbulence at the moment. But I'll tell you this, Pat, I have a terrible feeling that if you emphasize that too much, there's a class of people, nationalists, who will say, sure, that's grand the way it is. Push it back. Don't be disturbed with the unionists as well. And, we can wait 50 years, sure. No, we can't. No, we can't. The Good Friday Agreement didn't say, once we've got all sorts of things like transport and infrastructure and police and all the rest, right, then we'll think about having a vote. Didn't say that. It said when a majority were likely to win it. That was it. So I'm not saying these things aren't important and good, but I think we'll be very careful that we don't substitute the idea of a border poll for this.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not arguing with that. I'm just saying you're 100% right. By the way, there are a lot of people I know. Micheál Martin, I think, is the leader of that, or the cheerleader for that. Softly, softly, don't upset the apple cart.
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's kick the can down the road. And you're dead right. It could take 50 years, maybe 100 years, the way things are going. That sort of approach. But I do get the impression, maybe, Jude, that there are more clever people than us in regard to, not that that's likely, by the way.
Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely.
I've got a plan to do this softly, softly. Now, if you mesh everything in the end, there's so much happening. Jude, let's get this, move on a wee bit. See this Windsor Protocol thing. The British government are not for moving on that. And that is also another thing that's, what do you call it? Northern Ireland is a wee bit unhinged from the rest of the UK.
Oh yeah, and it always has been, and it's just becoming more and more obvious. And much of that is thanks to the DUP, because they're the ones that have pointed it out again and again. Of course we're different here, and they should get that into their heads. So are we okay? Will we wrap up on this one? That we're saying that
but
this
no,
thing...
wait a minute. Hold on. What's the conclusion?
Are
you saying? No, but hold on. Are you suggesting that this thing about the border pool should be up front and center? And is that what you're suggesting?
I say it should be more up front and center than it is. I mean, why should we be under the radar doing little stuff? Why aren't people talking about a border pool? Why aren't we having a citizens' assembly or whatever, so that people provide a model of what a united Ireland would look like? Not now, but maybe in the future. And then see let people talk about it. I don't think you get anywhere in terms of a border poll if all you do is set up an All-Ireland railway system or an All-Ireland police force or whatever. Why not talk about the central pillar of the Good Friday Agreement?
No. I'm just saying that there does seem to be, and it's obvious. Every time now I turn on the BBC and UTV, I hear more Catholic names, and even the BBC Sport the other day, and they featured the Republic of Ireland's women's soccer team.
Yeah.
Years back, they would never have mentioned the Republic
That's
of
right.
Ireland.
That's right. So we're a long way ahead in what we were in that respect, but I still would say that those are background things, or those are sort of shoring up things. The central point is the Good Friday Agreement and guarantees a border poll, and nobody's talking about it. And the one I talked to one influential person the other day, and he said, "No, we don't want one now because I think nationalists would lose it." Well, you know, if you think they'd lose it, it'd be losing it through ignorance, because you want to tell people what kind of border poll you're going to have for what.
We've been saying that for years. That basically, if you're going to go for a vote, spell it out what you're voting for.
Well, they should be doing that with the same energy they're putting into this other thing. Okay, I'm going to cut the guillotine in that one, and there's one more item, and you're the one that's going to choose it, Pat.
No, Jude, let's move on. This week, the unionism has always claimed that there's sort of the DUP is one sort of big united party, all singing from the same hymn sheet, and so and I've never noticed it, but this week Sir Geoffrey said there were people within his own party briefing against the DUP, which I take it to mean briefing against him.
Yeah.
And so it's now out and open. But what I'm saying, Jude, as I said to you earlier on, this is a very confused and conflicted situation as we speak. If the DUP is now going to start some for looking for a deal on the Windsor framework, some against it, it's going to get even more complicated and more conflicted. So where do we go? Just put a bit of context in what I mean. Earlier last week, after the House of Lords report on an investigation into the Windsor framework, Lord Dodds said he didn't see Stormont coming back anytime soon. In fact, I think his implication was it's not coming back until we get our own way.
Yeah.
So what happens, Jude? What happens then? And so basically, what I'm saying is, Jude, what happens if the DU splinter that some want a deal on the Windsor framework, which apparently Sir Geoffrey does, and others don't?
Well, if they splinter, I mean, that's the recipe for disaster. You know, if the ranks of alliance are swollen now, they'll be even more swollen if the DUP splits publicly. And I mean, we've seen that happen with Dodds and the leader thing. You would have said it was nearly done for irreparably, but they've managed to shore things up. Of course, they're a divided group. Wilson, Dodds, Campbell, and a couple of others, probably AllIreland, are hardline. And they haven't a chance. As you say, the Windsor framework's in place. It's not going to change. I think, Pat, what will happen is that a sop will be given, or a cover, or a fig leaf, or whatever, to the DUP in the autumn, maybe after the next election, but at some point, so they can go back in and say, "Oh, look what we got. We stuck our ground," and so on. So vote for us. Look what we did. We've made sure we're a part of the UK. The irony of all that is, most nationalists don't give a monkey's. If they want to say that they're part of the UK, that's fine. And even they are an integral part. The only thing that'll make a difference in the end is a border poll.
But there does seem to be a sort of like significant sort of internal division, and about the leadership and the direction of the party, and it's going to be very, very interesting. Like I know, even if the British government gave them some sort of sop, to use your term, would it work? Like, it looks like people like Nigel Dodds are sort of saying, we want nearly the whole Windsor framework scrapped, which is not going to happen, by the way. And so, in other words, he's making it impossible for Sir Geoffrey to get a deal. And if they don't get a deal, what happens then? But by the way, isn't there sort of a great irony? Geoffrey got basically undermined Trimble when he was in the UUP to such an extent that he jumped ship and joined the DUP. And it looks like now, as leader, the same is happening to him as what he did to Trimble.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Arlene Foster once warned nationalists, be careful what you wish for. I would say that the DUP hardliners should be careful what they wish for. I mean, Arlene may do the Salome dance and say, bring me the head of Jeffrey Donaldson on a plate. you know, so we can get a really hardline for leader in there. But I'll tell you, that's a recipe for disaster. The hardliners are a small core, and I think there's a lot of unionists, there's a lot of even sensible DUP unionists, I would say, who are, they realize that's the road to nowhere. And they probably realize that eventually the Brits will come up with some sort of minor concession of some kind that they'll inflate into a huge concession and to give the DUP cover to go back into government.
Yeah.
Because they've nowhere to go. They've nowhere to go. They've nowhere to go.
We've been saying that. Jude, it's so obvious. But I don't understand. There's almost a nihilism. Have you read people like Kate Haway, Jim Allister, Jamie Bryson? You know, it's basically a nihilism. There's absolutely, they have no, it's all no, no, no. But right, come on out and tell us, you know, the EU and UK, where do they meet? On the island of Ireland. There has to be some sort of an agreement on trade, on goods, on services, and all the rest of it. And they come up with the one-year framework. These people say no, 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 but they have no suggestions about how they're going to resolve it themselves. And if they have no suggestions how they resolve it, if the EU and the UK and the Irish government can come up with something that they say it's acceptable to them, you know, I think they're in a very weak position just to tell people what they can or cannot do.
Indeed, absolutely. And especially if what they're asking for is, oh, please give us less access to the European market. Please take this away. I mean, that's just nuts. That's a bit like the Irish government
away from us and give us a handful of dirt.
Yeah, you know? That's like the Dublin government saying, "Oh no, don't ask us to tax Apple." You know, oh no, we don't want to do this.
We don't want the 13 billion euros.
Yeah. There really is no future in that. I'm just wondering, would you have, well, two things. One, would you agree with me that the DUP will go back into government with their fig leaf? And if so, how soon?
Jude, I'm not so sure anymore. I think I could be wrong. You're always open to, but I've been reading quite a lot this last week, and there seems to be growing opposition within that sort of stand. You know, the DUP about going back in, and you know, it's like the Trump thing. There's more and more people seem to be joining. Oh, they're right. We're getting sold out here, and all the rest of it. It's the unthinking hard right. We want our way or no way. There's no political pragmatism. Listen, this is the best deal we're going to get. There seems to be this idea, hey, wait a minute, purity, it's all or nothing. Well, I mean, usually when that's the approach, you get nothing.
But surely that's hardliners. Surely, as you say, Jeffrey
I accept
Donaldson and company
totally,
want to get it back in.
Yeah. It is the hardliners. But Jude, I don't see a lot of where are the people coming in unionism and the DUP saying, I agree with Jeffrey. Look, let's make a deal. This is, you know, we're still within the UK. We're still within the EU. We can make the best of both. There's no constitutional change because the Good Friday Agreement until a majority so decides. We need to make this place work. We need to make politics work. Let's go back into storm. Jude, I don't do. Have you read any senior DUP person coming out and supporting Jeffrey? I have.
No, they haven't. They haven't. But, you know, they'll have to come back at some point. Otherwise, they're going to be a total irrelevance. They do believe in devolution. That's one thing the DUP does believe in. So they'll have to come back at some point, and it'll be the old story. Every time the unionists leave the table, as it were, when they come back, it's weaker.
Backwards. Jude, you just said something there that Martin McGuinness claimed, he told it to me personally, and it's not exactly a statement. The first words that Paisley said to him as they went into the office of the first and deputy first minister, he says, listen, Martin, we can run this place far better than those guys. That was the first thing he said to him. In other words, hey, let's try and make this place work.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up at that today, Pat. What? Just one point. Eamon Ryan's talking about 2050 as a date for you know, eventually getting this All-Ireland network of rail in place, which would suggest that if that was the case, cross-border and all that, we would have to put the idea of a border pole on the back foot or the back burner. Do you think that's going to happen? Give me a projection. When will there be a border pole?
I think within 10 years.
You despite all the obstacles.
Yes, Jude, there's so many things. It's a fluid situation, but there's so many things happening. Jude, I keep saying the demographics are changing quite rapidly now. There's so many other things going on. The failure of Stormont. I think the British government have got totally pissed off with the unionists. They're making no overtures to them now whatsoever. The DUP had their time in the spotlight, and they absolutely screwed Theresa May. By the way, Jude, I at the time said that when they absolutely humiliated a British Prime Minister on the world stage, that they would pay for it somewhere down the line. And I think that there are a lot of the old establishment saying you do not do that. You're going to and I still think behind the scenes they lost a lot of kudos and a lot of goodwill with that stunt.
Something. This is my last point on this. A lot of people think that oh well, the South would vote for United Ireland, but in the North it'd be a minority. I think that's missing out something, and that is that how the nationalists in the North think, Republicans in the North think, is influenced by the thinking of the people in the South. Now, I've spoken to a reasonable number of younger, everybody's young now, but people in their 30s, 40s, and ask them what do they think about Sinn Féin, and they say, "Oh yeah, I'll vote for you. I always vote for Sinn Féin." So they're absolutely firm in their own mind, and I would say it's not a further step very far to say, and I want to have a border poll about it, or I want to have a very careful look at a United Ireland as well. I think that sort of change in the thinking of especially younger people in the South is going to have an effect on the nationalists and the Republicans in the North. We'll see ourselves as not people chasing a pipe dream, but people who are part of an all-Ireland sort of thought process.
Yeah, and apparently, I have no. It's only anecdotal, but apparently, a lot of the young people in the North are saying they hell with politics. But a lot of young people in the North do no longer see the South as the enemy. They see it as a liberal, go-ahead, progressive place. The old days of home rule is Rome rule and all that. That's all gone. And a lot of the young unionists are very now sort of liberal.
That's right.
They see a world through a different light. I grew up in a time when it was seriously sectarian. That's gone.
We're yesterday's man, Pat.
Absolutely.
We are yesterday's man.
Yesterday's man.
You're yesterday and the day before yesterday.
Yeah. But I'd like to live long enough to see a border poll.
Oh, God, wouldn't I? But I mean, this kind of talk about 2050, don't like to sound that tall. Okay, Pat, that's our perfectly formed but shortened version of our podcast. We'd be very interested to hear from people who are viewing what they think of the shortened version. Is it like a sawn-off shotgun, or is it like
or is it small but perfectly formed?
What's that? Yeah.
Is it small but Pat, perfectly formed?
Yeah.
All the best, Jude.
Okay, Pat. All the best. Thank you. Hold on a second. I find the place here. Oh dear, can't get it.
You're going to have that recording button, Jude.
Oh, there it is. I've got it now.